Welcome to the Environmental Justice Lab. I am your host, Dr. Leslie Joseph. Thank you so much for joining me. So you might not know this, but one of my favorite organizations in the world is Engineers Without Borders. I've been involved with them in some capacity since I was an undergraduate student back at the University of South Carolina. They do amazing work all around the world, and I'm excited because this year they're rolling out their Environmental Justice and Climate Resilience Initiative, which is really great because back when I was in the organization, in the student chapter at USC, we didn't even think about environmental justice. That wasn't even on our mind back then. We were just trying to travel, do some projects, come back home, and talk about it. But they have this new initiative that I'm really excited to learn more about and to see how we can get involved with. And so I'm also excited because throughout the month of July, we'll be talking with leaders and engineers at Engineers Without Borders about this initiative and about their goals and their overall mission, right? We're calling it EJ with EWB. We're going to have some amazing conversations, some great interviews, all kinds of discussion about environmental justice with Engineers Without Borders. And I'm excited to share this initiative, and hopefully we can all get involved and help this initiative move forward, because I think it's important that we do whatever we can to support environmental justice efforts wherever we find them, whoever is doing them. We should be a part of contributing and investing our time and energy into helping those initiatives be successful. So we should do that. But before we get into all of that stuff, I have to introduce you to Engineers Without Borders. You might not know who they are. So I got to tell you about them, who they are, what they do, how they do it, and why it's so significant that they're highlighting environmental justice and climate resilience in their work. It's a really big deal. So that's what we're discussing on this episode. Stay tuned. This is the Environmental Justice Lab. Welcome to the Environmental Justice Lab. I'm Dr. Joseph. Thank you so much for listening. So this episode is all about Engineers Without Borders, which happens to be one of my favorite organizations as an engineer. They do amazing work, and they have this great environmental justice initiative I want to tell you about. But first, I got to tell you how I got involved with EWB and why they're one of my favorite organizations. But even before then, I have to tell you a story. Can I tell you a story? Let me tell you a quick story. So, I have to be honest with you. I hate networking. I cannot stand networking at all. I don't know if it's because I'm an introvert. I don't know if it's because I think it's a waste of time. Maybe I'm not very good at it. Maybe that's what the issue is. But whatever the reason is, I hate networking. And I don't say hate very often, but I really do. I don't like networking. But since I've always wanted to be an engineer, I was always told that networking was the key to having a successful career. And so everywhere I would go, people would keep telling me how important it is to do networking, to be in places where you can network. And I would say things like, okay, I'm trying to get through school, but I'll take your word for it. I'll start networking. I was a student, so I don't know how to network. What is that? How do I even start networking? And so what they would tell me to do is to join professional organizations that had student chapters at the school. You go online, you look at all the organizations, you see which ones are connected to engineering organizations that are professional out there, and you join them, and then you can start networking, right? You can start meeting professional engineers, and you can start talking to them, and I guess meeting them and learning about them and knowing who they are. And so I did that, right? I went online, I checked, and of course we had a bunch of them. All kinds of professional organizations that had student chapters at our school. And so I started attending them, right? I would go to the meetings. They would have the pizza, they had the soda. I go there, I listen. And I'm not going to say which ones I went to, but you can probably guess the types of professional engineering groups that would be on a college campus. And so I would go to the meetings, right? I would go to the lunches. I would go to the presentations, right? I would go to the after work social hours. I say after work because they were working. I was in school, but I would go and I would attend the meetings. I'm trying to network. I'm trying to meet people and I'm trying to get connected. And I couldn't take it. I could not stand networking. walking around, shaking random people's hands, taking their business cards, not knowing who they worked for or what they did. All the while I'm thinking, I have to go back home and study so I can pass my test tomorrow. Should I even be here trying to network? And of course, everybody around me was having so much fun. They were enjoying themselves. Oh, isn't this great? This is such a great event. This is such a great opportunity. Aren't you so fortunate as a student to be here and to network? And I didn't feel so privileged. And for a long time, I couldn't figure out what my problem was. Why am I not enjoying this like everybody else is? Why am I not so excited to be here like everybody else is? But then I realized something. I found out why I wasn't so excited about being in those organizations. And it's because they weren't doing anything. We weren't doing anything at all. I mean, okay, so we were talking and we were meeting each other, but why? Why were we meeting? Why are we even here? We weren't going to do anything afterwards. We were going to get together, hang out, and then go home. And then I looked around at other groups on campus and they were doing things, actually doing stuff I thought that mattered. Right? We had a group called SAGE. It was the Students Advocating for a Greener Environment. I love this group. They were promoting environmental sustainability on campus. They were doing sit-ins at banks because they've invested in fossil fuel companies. They were protesting the construction of a nuclear power plant in this small black town. Like, they were doing something, right? There was a student chapter of Amnesty International, right? They were doing something, circulating petitions, speaking out against human rights, marching through campus. Okay, they're doing something. They're trying to fight for something, trying to change something, right? There was the Association of African American Students, right? They were doing something. They're trying to make our campus more diverse, more welcoming to Black students. Okay, I like what they're doing. What were we doing in our groups, in our meetings? Meeting every week for lunch so we can see the same people we saw last week when we met for lunch? Listening to professional engineers talk about how great their firms are, how much their work is so exciting to do. I was not excited at all about what they were doing. And I couldn't bring myself to pretend like this was the kind of thing I wanted to be continuing to do, this whole networking thing. So I said there has to be an organization out there for engineers where they're actually doing something. We're engineers. We can do a lot of things. Why are we just sitting in this room networking, meeting people and talking and then leaving? There has to be something else we can do. Can we do something for somebody else? Can we give back? Can we make somebody else's life better? Deal with some issues that they're dealing with? Why can't we do that? And so I started looking again. Is there anything that an engineer can do on this campus? And that's when I came across Engineers Without Borders. And I checked the website and I said, finally, this is an organization I can join. They're doing something around the world. And the engineers there are making a difference. I want to make a difference also. And so I said, I'm going to join the student chapter because they had student chapters all over the country. Surely there's one at USC. We're the biggest university in South Carolina. I know we have a chapter. I'm going to join it and start doing something. And so I went to go sign up and nothing. There was no chapter. So I asked around. I was in the civil and environmental engineering department at the time, and no one had even heard about Engineers Without Borders. How could we not know about this organization that does these things, that goes and does these things all over the world? We should have a chapter. And so, since we didn't have one, I started the chapter from scratch, from the very bottom, because I was not going to go back to those other engineering chapter meetings. No more networking. No more sitting around listening to people brag about how great their engineering firms are and how I should be a part of them and how I should be thankful that I have an opportunity to meet them as they tell me about their firms. No more. That's how I was thinking when I was a student. I need to do something that makes a difference. And so I told myself that I'm doing this Engineers Without Borders thing at USC. Even if I'm the only one in the group, I'll be a chapter of one. I had no problem at all. And so I went, got the paperwork from the university to be an organization on campus. I walked around looking for graduate students. I was trying to explain to them what it was, what they did, how we could be a part of what they're doing. I had my first meeting. I invited all the graduate students. They weren't doing anything anyway. They weren't busy. And they love free food. Students love free food. Pro tip, if you're trying to start an organization, bring food. Students love food. So my mom, because we're Haitian, so my mom cooked her signature Haitian food, brought it to campus. I invited the students to come and just sit in the meeting, eat the food, and listen to me talk about what I had learned about Engineers Without Borders. And so we had our first meeting. And then I told them there's going to be an Engineers Without Borders chapter on campus. This is what we're going to try to do. This is what we might be able to do if we get enough people involved. And we should really go for it. And they were with it. I was excited. There was about 5-6 people who kind of followed up afterwards and said, let's do it. Let's go for it. And so I told that group that there's a regional conference in North Carolina where they're going to teach us how to set up a chapter, how to get involved in the process, how to get a project. And we all went to that conference, came back, and everybody bought into the vision. We were all in it together. And so in that moment, in the fall of 2011, we had ourselves a student chapter of Engineers Without Borders at the University of South Carolina. It was a big moment. And it's been going strong ever since. I think right now they have a project in Ecuador. They've been working with a village there. And there are hundreds of chapters all over the country in the United States working to do things better. And now we're finally one of them. And so it was a big, proud moment for me. And so when we got that project, I didn't get to work on it because I had graduated already, but they continued on, continued to do great work, continued to make a difference. And I was very proud of that. And I was very excited that I was, at least in some way, a catalyst to get this kind of work done at our school. And so that's why I love Engineers Without Borders. They have projects all around the world, all around the country, and they're trying to make things better. So what is Engineers Without Borders? What am I even talking about? First things first, Engineers Without Borders is an NGO, right? It's a non-governmental organization. And they do engineered projects all around the world for people who do not have what they need as far as basic services are involved, right? Their stated mission is to partner with communities and develop leaders to build a better world. And by build, they mean that in every sense of the word. Infrastructure, people, everything. They're building it up and allowing people who don't have capacity to gain capacity to determine what their lives will be like where they live. And this is all done by encouraging professional engineers and engineering students to volunteer their time with these local chapters wherever they live so they can work on these projects. So you would look, they have a map on their website, you find a chapter near you, you attend the meetings. If you're a student, hopefully you have professional engineers in that group associated with your chapter. You work together on a project. If you're a professional engineer, you bring that expertise to the chapter. You help design and implement whatever the projects are. And it's really fun. And it's really impactful. And so what I appreciate the most about EWB is that instead of just doing projects, these chapters partner with the communities around the world, and they basically act like they're engineering firms. And it's like each village gets their own little engineering firm to help them with whatever their needs are. And so instead of just doing one project, you finish your project and you leave, you have a partnership with that community as a chapter, and you're continuing to build up that community. You stay connected to them, whatever their needs are, whatever they're requesting, you continue to serve them, continue to enhance their quality of life with the work that you do in that community, and you continue that relationship. I don't know how long it lasts, but it definitely lasts a long time because Engineers Without Borders believes, and I would agree, that you can't just be project-based. You have to be community-based, people-focused, and that's how real change happens. Not just simply by doing projects here, projects there, and moving right along. And so they're all over the world doing these projects. But they're not just in other countries. I know that there's a contingent of Engineers Without Borders chapters that do work in the United States through an alliance called the Community Engineering Corps, where underserved communities can get some much needed engineering support from this organization. And so I looked at the map yesterday, and it looks like, from the map at least, that there are chapters in 48 of the 50 states in the United States of America. And so there's a chapter in almost every state. Arkansas, South Dakota, I didn't see one for you. Hopefully you have one. If you don't have one, you should get one. Students in those states, think about starting one. It will be amazing to be able to have an EWB chapter in your state at your university to make a difference. And so that's how I feel about Engineers Without Borders. But that's not why I'm talking about them. That's not why we're going to have a discussion about Engineers Without Borders all next month. The reason we're talking about them now is because they have the Environmental Justice and Climate Resilience Initiative. That's why I want to talk to them, because I want to know more about this initiative. I want to know more about what they're trying to do, what this means for the organization, and how this differs from what they're currently doing. Right? So right now, they're currently raising money to fund this initiative. I think the goal is $50,000. And obviously, you can go on their website and give. We'll put a link in the description. That's fine. But I have so many questions about this initiative. I really want to know about it. Right? So how will this initiative specifically impact how EWB operates? Right? Because you can say, we're going to fight for environmental justice. We need money to help us work towards climate resilience. We have a lot that we need to do. That's fine. You can talk about it and people can send you some money. But what's that going to actually do on the ground? How's that actually going to change the way you do projects, how you decide what projects to do, who you partner with, how you function as an organization? I want to know that. And I think anybody who sees this initiative, I've been putting it on my social media for the last couple of weeks now, but I want to know these. I need answers. I need answers. I want to know how this initiative will change or maybe shift the way they identify the projects that they do. So now that you have this initiative, are your projects going to be different? Are you going to focus on different types of projects? I don't know. I need to know. Are you going to just repackage what you've been doing and then just call it environmental justice and just call it climate resilience? I don't know. I hope not. But I need to find out, because environmental justice, climate resilience, these are nice buzzwords. These are good catchphrases. But I need to know, are you really about that work? Are you really going to do it? Are you really pushing to make a difference in these areas? That's what I want to know. And of course, where's the money going, right? People are giving the money, and you can always donate to EWB. That's not a problem. They take donations all the time, and they will definitely use them to help people around the world. So either way, it's a good organization. There's no problem there. But if I'm giving to this very specific initiative because I care about these specific topics, I care about environmental justice, I care about climate resilience, I care about the disproportionate way that certain communities around the world are impacted by policies, by pollution, by people's practices, by climate change. I want to know if this money specifically is going to go to help people in those particular situations. How is that going to work? What does that look like? And one thing I wonder too is, will this initiative go beyond the actual projects and the engineering and into policy? Are you going from projects to policy? Because a lot of the injustice that we see, a lot of the lack of support that these communities have are policy driven, not necessarily project driven, right? So sometimes it's the policies and the practices that happen on the governmental level, on the local level, that create situations where we see environmental injustice, where we see these disproportionate impacts. And I wonder if EWB is going to get into some advocacy work with this initiative. I think they should. It would be difficult to kind of get engineers to move towards advocacy or to have a structure in place where you can actually advocate for certain things to change. I get it. And I don't know if they're going to do that, take it that far. But we got to ask the question. I want to know. I want to know all about this initiative, everything I can find out. So for the month of July, I've been fortunate enough to get interviews and to get connections with officers, with engineers, with program coordinators inside EWB to learn about this initiative, to see what we can expect from it, how can we support it, and what will it ultimately seek to do as they move forward with the initiative itself, right? I'm calling it EJ with EWB. In the month of July, it's EJ with EWB. The interviews are already starting. The conversations are happening. And I'm excited to see what we can learn about EWB and what we can learn about its environmental justice and climate resilience initiative and what it means for the communities and the countries that they serve. I want to know all those things. So think of this as the intro into a month-long discussion about environmental justice, about climate resilience with Engineers Without Borders. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too. Let's find out together what is happening with this initiative, how we can support it, and what kind of changes it'll make around the world. I can't wait. And that's our episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Environmental Justice Lab, where we are for the people and for the planet. See you next time.